says, hey, what's happening here? People are rejecting the teachings of Jesus to adopt the teachings of Trump. Let's put them up full mass. You don't say, preacher. Evangelical Christian leader Dr. Russell Moore revealed this week that many evangelical pastors have become alarmed that their Trump-loving congregants have become so militant that they are even rejecting the teachings of Jesus Christ. What? Pastor, no. In an interview with NPR, Dr. Moore said that multiple pastors had told him disturbing stories about their congregants being upset when they read from the famous Sermon on the Mount, in which Christ espoused the principles of forgiveness and mercy as central to Christian doctrine. You know, things that liberals believe, by the way. There's more. Multiple pastors tell me essentially the same story about quoting the Sermon on the Mount parenthetically in their preaching. Turn the other cheek. And to have someone come up after to say, where did you get those liberal talking points? Question mark. Dr. Moore revealed. And what was alarming to me is that most of these scenarios, when the pastor would say, I'm literally quoting Jesus Christ, who was a progressive, by the way, the response would not be, I apologize. The response would be, yeah, but that doesn't work anymore. That's weak. Dr. Moore, who has been an outspoken critic of many evangelicals' embrace of Trump, argues that this has led him to conclude that American evangelical Christianity is now in crisis. I think that the roots of the political problem really come down to disconnection, loneliness, and sense of alienation. Even in churches that are still healthy and functioning, regular church going is not what it was a generation ago, in which the entire structure of the week was defined by the community. Let me do this for you, Pastor. I'll put up the pastor. Pastor Moore, I've actually appreciated the fact that you are willing to stand up and say things contrary to the normative Christian evangelical values. But in this case, dear sir, you are incorrect as far as your conclusion as to what's happening. According to you, Pastor Moore, the reason this is happening is because individuals in your church feel disconnected, lonely, and alienated. Let me help you understand what's happening, sir. You all have espoused a false gospel. You all have led a political movement disguised as a spiritual movement. The ideology of the Christian evangelical church has always been antithetical to progress and diversity. Hierarchy and masculinity is the rule of the day for you all. The Christian evangelical church, as you say, is now losing its way. Sir, you all did not even march with Dr. King. I think you lost your way a long time ago. And here's the reality, sir. This is the Jesus your Christian evangelical churches preach every Sunday. You provided a false representation, a fictional character of the Messiah. That is the reason your congregants are following a false representation of fictional Messiah, Donald Trump. All right, Ravonna, thoughts?
Well, my first thought when I read this headline for this story, seeing pastor says that evangelicals are replacing Jesus with Trump, my first thought was, yeah, duh, that has been the case. And you're exactly right that it is, the core teachings of this church. I mean, we're talking about this, a white Jesus who loved capitalism and would have had his own private jet if he was alive today. Of course, they see that in Donald Trump. The irony is that Donald Trump is not a Jesus-loving man himself. Maybe that idea of Christianity he follows. But this is a man who couldn't even say, what his favorite Bible verse was. He couldn't even name his favorite Testament. This is not a man who's familiar with the love of Jesus, but maybe then the evangelical church needs to do some introspection in how so many of its members of its congregation could turn to this false prophet after listening to their teachings.
That's right. So now you have to ask yourself, Dr. Moore, what have we been teaching to where our congregants are literally identifying with white nationalism, racism, and bigotry over the actual teachings of Christ? That is a question that you're going to have to deal with, sir.